if you do more than what is required, you're not going to miss the mark, or you're going to be very likely to miss the mark. Imagine that you are launching a little like rocket to the moon, okay? And you calculate the trajectory and the distance and the fuel that you need and the amount of thrust that you need to make it to the moon. Okay, and so you only put enough gas in the vehicle to make it to the moon. And you fire the thrusters, and you fire just enough thrusters just so you'll cruise right into the moon, and then you cut the thrusters before when you know that you've got enough thrust. Okay, now in that scenario, if everything works perfectly and you did every calculation right and it's all good, you will get exactly to the moon. But if there's something wrong, some small miscalculation, some small deviation, something happens, okay, that disrupts the plan, you will die out. You won't have enough fuel, you won't have enough thrust, and you will be dead in the water, dead in space, and not make it to the moon. So what should you do in that situation? Should you perhaps plan for making it further than the moon? Like if you have a trajectory that will put you past the moon, that will give you enough fuel to make it past the moon, do you think that would be a good idea? So if that's true, then why the fucking life are you just aiming for the finish line all the time? You got to do more than that's required, because you are going to underestimate what it takes to accomplish anything in life. This is the rule. This is what you should expect. Okay? Whatever you think it's going to take 2 to 3 times more. In fact, my buddy Grant Cardone, he has a really good book on this called 10x rule, and it's a little extreme, but he says in that book, he says that it'll take 10 times more than you estimate. So you better put in 10 times the work. You better put in 10 times the effort. You better assume that it's 10 times harder, okay? And that's the general rule. And I like that. I like that because the thing is, like, if you assume it's 10 times harder and you go for the 10 times effort, you're going to hit. You're going to plow your fucking spaceship right through the moon. You're going to put a hole in the moon that you're going to hit it so hard, and that's great. Okay, it's so much better than missing your target and wasting all the time and wasting all the energy because you arbitrarily set your goal too small or you misplanned. It's better to overdo it, to give more, to do more than that is required. The thing about this also, like the important thing about this concept, okay, again, with achieving your goals is like I said, the biggest problem that you're going to have if you just try to do what is required is that you're going to probably fall short. You're also going to mess up, okay? So for example, all right, if you planned some project, right, whatever goal that you have right now, okay, I want you to take that, right? This is a little bit of a trick here, because remember, go back to the other videos where we took the aspiration and we made it into an actual goal, and then we took a process from that, okay? Now, whatever that goal was, all right, let's say like for me, for YouTube, it was to make 2,000 videos to get 100,000 subscribers, okay? Now, in reality, I thought it could probably be done in about 1,000, but I doubled it to 2,000 just to be sure. I didn't tell you that part earlier, okay? But in reality, maybe I should have made it 3,000, but I would have been willing to do 3,000, okay? So the same thing here. I want you to take whatever that goal is that you have, and I want you to add some to it. I want you to add to it. Maybe you can make it 1.5 or even 2 times or 3 times what do you think it'll be, and now make that adjustment and put in that level of effort. If you do that, you will greatly increase your chances of achieving that goal and becoming successful in life. Okay? You have to be putting in more than the effort that is required. And here's the other thing about this. This is the beauty of this. Okay, and I could give this to you in the terms of diet, right? I think that's kind of a fair one. So I don't want to get too deep into this, but imagine that you're trying to lose weight, okay? And let's say that your calories for just like maintaining your body weight are 2,500 per day, okay? And so imagine that you go on your diet and you basically eat 2,300 calories a day. So you're in a deficit of 200 calories. So that's hard. It's hard enough. It's not super hard because it's a little bit less than your maintenance, but it's kind of hard. You're still dieting, right? And so you're going to lose 200 calories worth of of weight loss per day, and in 10 days you lose 2,000, right? And it takes about 3,500 as a pound of fat, so it'll take you, what is that? Something around like 20 days or so you could expect to lose a pound of fat. Imagine that you're already doing the diet, you're already planning out the meals, right? Because there's some effort involved in doing that stuff, right? Because you've got to calculate that, right? And instead, you just said, you know what? Instead of eating 2,300, I'm going to drop it down to 2,000, okay? Now you're losing a deficit of 500 calories per day, okay? And now you're going to increase the weight loss by 1.5 or 2.5, right? 2.5 times. So if you're losing 500 calories a day, every 7 days you're going to lose a pound instead of approximately every 18. Okay, that's a lot faster. Okay, it's more than twice as fast. Why do I say this? Why do I use this example? And again, well, let's not debate whether you should lose weight fast or slow. Okay, the reason why I say this is because the effort required to be in a 200 calorie deficit, of planning the meals, of calculating the macros and the nutrients, and preparing those healthy meals and all that stuff, right? It's not much different, right? And even the pain involved, it's not much different than cutting it down to 2,000 calories. You're still doing all the same stuff. You're just putting a little bit less on the plate or eating a couple of bites less, right? A little bit less food. Okay, the pain, the difficulty, the sacrifice is not much more. But you're getting more than 2 times the result. Okay, does that make sense? Again, it's not a one-to-one mapping in this analogy, I understand. But I want you to understand that in life, that concept applies. There's a lot of things that you can do in life, a lot of goals that you can achieve where there's a maintenance cost involved. There's a overhead involved. And just by putting in a little bit more effort, a little bit more than that's required, you get a huge return. Right? You could think about this, again, is like anything that has an overhead, right? This is like if you've ever been in any kind of business where there's volume pricing. Why is there volume pricing on shit, right? Like if I order, like I've got this shirt, right, that's got the Bulldog logo. If I order one of these, it might be like $50. But if I order 5,000 of them, they might be like $10 each. Why? The setup, okay, in the machine where they make these kind of shirts or like do the embroidery or whatnot, okay, in order to do one run, they have to set up certain equipment in order to do that and have the logo and have someone do that, right? That work, okay? And that's a fixed cost, okay? Now, the more shirts that you create, the more you distribute that fixed cost across the number of shirts, okay? So the lower that the impact of the overhead is, okay? So it makes more sense to make more shirts at one time, okay? Because you're getting a greater value per shirt. The same thing in life. In many, many things in life, almost everything that we do, almost every goal that we try to achieve, there is a huge overhead, okay? It's stupid. Like, let's imagine the stupidity of this. Suppose you wanted to go to the gym to lift weights for 5 minutes a day, okay? How stupid would that be? Because you have to put on your clothes, right, for the gym. You have to go to the gym. Maybe you're walking there or driving there. Get in, do your workout, and then get back, take a shower, take your clothes off, right? If you're going to be there, doesn't it make more sense to lift weights for at least an hour or something, or 45 minutes, some length of time where it makes sense, where the overhead is minimal, right? It would be ridiculous to incur that overhead, right? So every hour that you're there at the gym lifting weights, not that you should lift for hours and hours, it reduces the amount of the impact of that overhead. So it is in all the things that you're trying to do in life and your goals, and you're trying to achieve things in life. You have to remember that, okay? So that's why it's so important, again, that you do more than that's required, because you get a bigger return on the more that you do. If you just do the minimum that's required, you pay the full cost of the overhead. If you do more than that's required, that cost of overhead, it gets distributed and it becomes less of an impact. And oftentimes there's also an exponential result that you achieve aside from that, okay? Because oftentimes it's kind of the difference between like being number one and being number two, right? The person who's number one in an industry, they get like maybe 80%. It's like Pareto's law, right? They get maybe 80% of the sales, of the volume of the business. The person who's number two, they get 20%. So how much more effort does it take to go from 2 to 1? In some cases, it might be a lot, but it might be a little. It might just be a little bit of effort. And if you put in a little bit more work than that's required, you might be able to go to number 1 and 4x the amount of results that you're getting just by simply putting in a little bit more effort. Does that make sense? If you want to achieve your goals, if you want to be successful, always remember, don't do that just what's required. Do more. If you really want to make sure you're going to achieve your goals and be successful, do 2 to 3 times. If if you're Grant Cardone serious, do 10x. Okay? And I think 10x is really, it's a metaphor. I don't think, it's not practical in many places, so I'll be honest about that. But 2 to 3x is. Just do 110% every time, right? If you're supposed to do something, do it a little bit, just do 10% more, because you're going to get that extra benefit from it. And if you do that continually, if you make that a principle and you do that in everything in your life, you're going to see exponential results from doing that. So we're going to finish strong tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow. Talk to you next time. Take care.